How to overcome depression as Christians. When I was in my early 20s and would see or listen to anything regarding depression, I really didn't understand it. I would always look at people who would say they are depressed and just think, why don't you just snap out of it? Why don't you just pull yourself out of it? Just shake yourself out of it and get on with your life. This was until I experienced a period of depression myself, although it wasn't a prolonged period of time. I understood, though, why it wasn't as straightforward as just shaking yourself out of it. I finally understood it's not that straightforward. You see, as an individual, I am a very goal-orientated guy, so I won't go into the details, but something happened to my company, and it was something that was completely out of my control. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't try to cheat anyone. I was diligent, I was hard-working, I was persistent. But out of the blue something happened that cost me a lot of money, and that stopped me from being able to earn. And I wasn't able to earn then at that point. That's when it started for me. I didn't feel like leaving my bed. I honestly didn't leave my house for a long period of time. I spent my days eating and watching films in the dark. I spoke to my pastor at that time, and he encouraged me to pray. But I remember I tried to pray on 3 occasions. The first time I tried to pray, no words would come out. I literally sat there in my living room for hours and nothing would come out. I would honestly try to pray, but it was just so painful. I'm sure other people have had this experience. I'm sure other people know this pain, the silence and the emptiness you feel when you bury the person who means the world to you, the silence and emptiness you feel when your spouse is unfaithful. So many things in life can push you into depressions. So many things can crush your spirit. Psalm 34 verses 17 to 18. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. We all have things that have one time or another crushed our spirit. When we are down, some recovered quickly, some took years, while some are still in a depression. Depression is not a good thing. It's not something one can recover from fast. Many things cause depression in this life. Christians are not free of depression. Depression has damaged many Christians, more than you can ever imagine, because people pay less attention to depressed Christians. They believe Christians should not face depression because it is something like a sign of weakness. We need to stop thinking like that. Depression can hit anyone. Life breaks you down. Life can destroy you. Heartache and heartbreak is something that all Christians have lived through. We as Christians know what grief is. We know what distress is. We know what sorrow is. We know what pain is, in all its forms. Emotional pain, physical pain, psychological pain. We know what tears are. Because we are believers, we just don't escape the trials and tribulations of life. Physical illness, mental illness. Our people have suffered accidents. Christian families have lost children. Christians have lost brothers and sisters and husbands and wives. Just because we are Christian, we don't escape pain. We know what death is too. And before death is often the agony and pain and distress which precedes it, as the person slowly deteriorates. And we're not spared from this because we are Christians. Christian people have experienced the pain of an unfaithful spouse, emotional problems, people being let down in their marriages, people being let down just before their marriage, betrayals, slander, gossip. Christians have experienced all these things, and all these things can lead to depression. As Christians, how do we overcome depression? Some things will cause us to be depressed. when it comes, what should we do? Firstly, trust in the Lord alone. The mistake most people, including Christians, make, they have the belief that God has nothing to do with our emotions. That is not true about God. God is interested in every area of our lives. Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Truly, we can't solve problems ourselves. We can't take care of things ourselves. But if we trust in the Lord and believe in Him to help us with all the things we want, we will never be frustrated. Romans 10 verse 11. For the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on Him shall not be ashamed. The truth about depression is that it grows when you are alone. If you refuse to make friends with godly people or like minds, depression comes in and starts to eat you up little by little. Self-preservation is the first law of life. If you break your wrist, your first instinct is to shield it, to keep it from being injured or hit by anyone else. The same is true with our emotions. When you are emotionally wounded, truly wounded, people tend to isolate themselves subconsciously to shield themselves, but it doesn't help. This is why the second thing to do is to associate yourself with other believers. Loneliness is one of the triggers for depression. It is not until you are with someone that you feel lonely. There are times you are close to people, but you feel the loneliness in you. This loneliness is what will trigger or accelerate the level of depression. It is better to associate with people, not just people, but believers. People that can help you get over challenges. People who can encourage you to do great things. Hebrews 10 verse 25. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more, as ye see the day approaching. Thirdly, seek help. If you are feeling depressed, there are people you can seek help from. Make sure the people you are asking to help are those you trust. Make sure they are not those who will use your condition against you. The world is full of evil people who will try and take advantage of you, even in your weakest state. It would be a disaster to be open to people who will ridicule you or who will judge you and not help in any way. There are people in the church who will listen to you and pray with you. They are those who you should choose to speak with. You can also seek help from a therapist, let them guide you and teach you how to overcome depression. Fourthly, use the medicine of prayer. The Bible talks about the prayer of the righteous. James 5 verse 16. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. We must not stop praying that God should give us the courage to face any challenge that might face us. When Paul and Silas were locked up in the prison, they refused to be depressed, but they prayed and sang. Then a miracle happened. Acts 16 verse 16. If there is anything you are going through in life, good or bad, you must always pray. If you are feeling depressed, open your mouth and talk to God. He is always ready to hear from you and help you. Prayer is therapeutic, and it will help us even cleanse the things on your chest. In this life, one thing we should know is that there will be situations that will bring about depression, but we shouldn't allow these situations to make us weak. We shouldn't allow it to kill us. Jesus said He will give us peace if all of these things come to us. John 16 verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. God also promised to never leave us in any situation we find ourselves. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6. And finally, I want to remind you, God has not forgotten you. I promise you, God has not forgotten you. He sees you